The disciplines, like I just mentioned, the paddleboards have really been big in the waves and the surfboards, the kite racing scene, wind surfboards, sailboats. I'm sure some of you have seen the America's Cup sailboats back in the day. The St. Francis Yacht Club is actually at the forefront of the kite racing scene. Some of you may know they offer a Thursday night racing league. Daniela, Joey, many of these guys participate in it. There's actually a race next Thursday, so if anyone hasn't seen it yet, highly recommend you come check it out. Starts at 5:30-ish? Yeah? Don't be late because you'll miss it. It goes really quick. Yeah. So, some of the ways to learn how to get involved. John Von Tesmar with Kite the Bay kind of talked earlier on how he tows people behind his boat and does kite lessons. That's kind of how we like to start with hydrofoils. They're dangerous. You know, you want to start the right way. You don't want to just say, okay, I got this and go for it. We highly recommend you learning the proper way. Obviously, protective gear, helmet, and whatnot to get started is very important. And linking up with someone like John Von Tesmar or Watersports at Alameda to teach you the proper way to do it. We recommend learning behind a boat or a jet ski, getting pulled to understand the concept of how these things work before actually jumping in the waves or incorporating it with your kite. Definitely big to learn the right way. What do you say, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is when we first learned how to ride these things, is this thing's hanging out below your board. And it's like this, we called it this crazy sword. And what happens is as soon as you jump off of it, this sword starts kind of following you in weird ways and jumps out of the water and comes towards your head. And, you know, there's just all these videos of people learning that's quite hilarious, actually. But it's something you really want to be careful with. But at the same time, it's one of the most unbelievable feelings you've ever felt in your life, is just going from your board, making all this noise in the water, it's just so loud, and then you come up on this foil, and then it's just completely silent, and you're just rushing along, you doubled your speed, and it's silent and beautiful. So it's definitely something that everyone should experience.
It's quite the feeling. Prerequisite for trying, what do you say? For people learning the sport?
I mean, yeah, I like JVT's input, bringing it behind the boat first. You know, if you really have never done anything like this and you really want to try the feeling, get on a SUP board, big kind of dumbed down board with a big dumbed down foil like this, and you won't even believe how fast you can get up, and you just lean back and then lean a little forward, and that's it, you know, and then you deal with other things, but it's really not that hard, and it's something that's so fun, and you should definitely try it.
First couple rides, no matter what discipline, you'll be hooked right away. The feeling of flying over the water, there's not much that can top it.
So it kind of started with racing here at St. Francis Yacht Club. We were all on our race boards, and it just wasn't really the answer. Unfortunately, we wasted a lot of phone figuring that out. But then we found these and learned how to tack them, learned how to jibe them, learned how to maneuver around a full course with them. And we're like, whoa, we can actually do this, and this is a racing machine. And yeah, it really happened right out there about 100 feet away from us. So it's pretty cool.
Takes everything to the next extreme.
So yeah, I highly recommend it, and no one's too old, too young. You know, just take your time, go with the right professional, and take the right steps so this sword doesn't get you.
Death tomahawk. Does anyone have any questions on hydrofoils or how they could get involved? Here it comes. Oh, we're excited. Yeah, so this is our surf wing. This is our biggest. This is for a stand-up paddleboard or a larger guy in the surf. I've actually been using this as my personal. I have way too much fun on this. I like the surfing. Joey's more into the kite racing, but yes, that's a pumping machine.
So can you explain a little bit about surfing waves with a foil with or without a kite?
Yeah, so without a kite is what I like to do quite often. You can bolt any board on the top of these, as you may know. I'm using a 4.6 shortboard or 5.0 shortboard that's very thick, has a lot of volume. And we're usually paddling in, we call it bump starts. We're paddling in, the wave breaks, it's a big foam ball crumbling into the beach, or hopefully not completely too shallow. And we usually catch it in the foam, hop up, and then it'll kind of go from there, either exiting and catching the wave behind it, or just getting out in front of it.
But what's the feeling with the foil? Because you don't touch the water, you're just above the water. So does it matter if you're surfing off of a wave or if you're just above the water?
Not really. I mean,
on a surfboard, you are directly connected to the water. You can feel the water pushing you, the wave pushing you.
yeah, so usually the way I set my setup up is I move the foil further back. So I get up on the board, drop in on the wave, so I'm still on the board, and then as I lean back and kind of pump it, as you may experience from kiting on it or to bring it up on foil, then you're already moving out in front of it and getting out into the open section of the wave that you wouldn't traditionally surf. So you're not like in the pocket where it's like a barrel or a steep section. You're kind of running out front of it and staying into either the foam ball or just the mushy flat rolling section. John Vaughn and I actually
I think, yeah, what he's trying to say is like with these, you would need to ride the same size wave, you'd need like a 14-foot longboard.
Yeah.
So as soon as you actually get into that little tiny like thing that's this big, you can pop up on the foil and this thing will keep riding it until there's absolutely no wave at all. And even if there's no wave at all, you can actually do these pumping maneuvers like he's talking about, where you're generating your own speed, and you can actually probably easily pump across the harbor here and not have a wave at all.
Yeah, they're more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of brands here today. I know Armstrong, Axis. We have F1 foils back there. Lots of foils for you to check out and ask questions. They come in all different shapes and sizes, from everything from racing to surfing, like we're discussing here. But the surfing the waves, it's made really crappy days look amazing. You would never surf it before, and it's just awesome. Oh, Ella's got a question.
I do have a question. I think that there's some of us are fortunate to have some,
Good
people-
instructors.
Yeah, instructors help us along the typical path of foiling. But what would you recommend to beginners? Because I think there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of good gear out there. But if you could give a general size of front wing, back wing mast, I think that could help.
The size is hard because it goes with the person's body weight and whatnot.
Someone my size.
Oh, we're going
Maybe a
right
little
into
taller.
interview.
5'2".
Spot there. Just to start, if you're a kiter or a surfer, we kind of put you on a smaller setup and pull you behind a boat, like we were mentioning with like John Vaughn, or behind a jet ski, and just to get the control of it. So, I mean, this is 1,800 square centimeter front wing. They go in very different sizes. This is the biggest. This is one of our bigger. There's one size bigger, but this is a very large wing. So usually they're much smaller. They're about half that size.
So like for a beginner, for example.
Well, it depends if we're talking about kiting or surfing.
Kiting.
So if we're talking about kiting, about 800 to 1,000 square centimeter front wing. So 800 square centimeters less than this is kind of what we start them on. Just a slow, steady lift that has enough to kind of get the person up and getting the feel of how it operates is sufficient. Like, what are you riding now? I think you just got a new 850.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's great.
Yeah. So for the kite, it varies big time. So from the kiting, it's going to be a much smaller wing, and then the surfing, it's going to be a much larger wing like this. Especially if you have a paddleboard, it's a much larger board. So you kind of need to tailor it to what aspect you're looking to achieve here.
So what's the deal with the mast length? Does that come into play
mast
at all?
length. So this is kind of, for surfing, this is a taller mast. For kiting, this is more of an entry-level mast. The whole concept is the shorter the mast, the lower the center of gravity, making it easier for the person to learn. The taller the mast,
The more you can lean over and go upwind and not have what's a serious issue with the foils when we're racing is the wingtip coming out. And what that does is send these weird air bubbles all the way down the wing, and it actually wipes you out pretty quickly. So
Causes like a
longer
cavitation.
mast for racing is better.
yeah. So like Joey, what do you race on?
I have no idea.
Like 110.
It's like,
It's like 110 centimeters. This
It's
is
twice as long as
This
this.
is 75 centimeters, and that's kind of an advanced surfing mast, but it would be a more entry-level kite setup. So you kind of tailor it to your skill level and the discipline you're doing.
Depth of water maybe comes in.
Depth of water, sand bottom is really nice. Yeah. I was definitely sitting on the bottom the other day in LA. It was a little too big.
Well, on that note, what we figured out through the few years that we've been doing this is keeping your hydrofoil very clean and beautiful. Like if you hit a rock, you actually got to go to the board doctor and get that ding fixed, because all it's going to do is just make air go over your wings, and your foil will never be the same. So keep it very clean.
That affects the overall.
It affects the ride. It affects you being able to foil, period. it affects a lot of things. So just keeping it perfect.
When you do that, to what degree are you just wet sanding down? And what is the level where you actually have to build up something?
I mean, it obviously depends on, then again, you know, are you a surf foiler, a slow foiler, are you a race foiler? I mean, I put magnifying glasses on and do this for hours.
I do not.
So,
I take a little wet 2000 and rub off some burrs. I put sunscreen on. Joey says, "Get away from me."
yeah, that's another thing, sunscreen. We all put sunscreen on when we ride. If you lather your face in sunscreen and do this to your hydrofoil, it's one of the worst things you can do because you're putting oil on your foil.
What does that do? Does that create air bubbles?
Same thing as a gigantic ding or a scratch.
It really affects the performance.
This guy.
Yeah.
If you don't care about going slow, it's
Yeah.
no big deal.
You still feel it. You totally still
Don't do
feel
it. I just wouldn't
You
do
do.
it no matter what.
Joey, have you been getting sunburn then?
Yeah. Can you tell?
He just doesn't touch his foil.
How important is carbon versus aluminum?
Well, so we're using aluminum mast on a lot of our recreational freeride foils because the torsion is physically better and the weight is very comparable. So torsion, meaning side to side like this, is much stiffer than a lot of carbon constructions. So it kind of depends on who we're talking about brand-wise and how they're laying it up. Like this is an extruded aluminum mast with a carbon plane, which gives it the rigidity we're looking for. But like in the racing scene, Joey's using like a full carbon mast setup that we offer, and
I mean, it's the same as sailboat racing. Do you want a carbon sailboat mast or do you want an aluminum one? You know, it's just
Price point.
yeah.
it also makes the price more affordable. I mean, we're looking at something like this. Complete retail is about $1,700, versus if it was full carbon, we'd be looking at 23. So, I mean, kind of the trade-offs. A person surfing is not going to feel the carbon performance like somebody like Joey who's racing on it.
Could I use one foil to use anything?
You could. Now, this is going to have advantages and disadvantages. Let's say you want to kite on a foil like this that's made for surfing. Your angles upwind aren't going to be as great, and your speed's not going to be as great. But yes, you can do it.
So you can change out. You can change out wings.
All this is interchangeable, so you can buy like 3 front wings and switch them out all as you wish. So it's kind of, you know, what's your main discipline? You kind of tailor it to that, and then go from there. So, but yeah. Any other questions?
Well, for somebody who's not a kiter, what's the best way for them to get into
Kind of.
stand up paddleboard?
No, I mean, if you're not you mean not a kiter at all, and you just want to like surf foil, or? Yeah, it would definitely be stand-up paddleboards. I like to start them on stand-up paddleboards with a big wing, and like I said, I like to kind of set them up behind a jet ski or a boat so they understand how it works before you throw them into the waves. It's enough to control these things underneath you in the waves. But yeah, I've seen more success on paddleboards with a nice generous amount of volume. It makes it easier to catch the wave. They can catch almost no wave, and they can kind of get the touch and goes gradually before they start, you know, moving around, and it's a safe manner to get up to that level. So yes, I would say paddleboard. The shortboard's definitely tough. You need to be kind of an advanced surfer in general to kind of get that direction. So ultimately, getting pulled behind a boat to understand how they work is key.
Do you guys ever see pump foiling turning into anything?
This is what a lot of the guys are using, the smaller, like 165, pound guys.
Maybe explain pump foiling.
So pump foiling, what they're talking about, it's not surfing a wave. It's like basically running off of a dock or getting pulled behind a boat and swinging out and then pumping
Like a
it.
fish.
And you're basically generating kind of a front foot to back foot pressure to keep the momentum going. It's key to stay really high so that as you go down, you can get your speed back up, and it's key to carry the speed. So John Vaughn and I were working behind the boat the other day, pumping around a little bit.
And that's what a wing like this is invented for, this big, just so you can go at like 5 knots in foil, which is pretty incredible.
I can almost generate up to about 8 or 9 knots from standstill. Like when I kick out of a wave and it has no momentum at all, I can kind of generate that much speed on a wing like this. Which a smaller wing, I'm like 200-pound guy, is much more difficult. I'm winded, I'm done. Give me like a minute ride and it's game over.
So kids are the best.
Yeah,
foilers
the young
in the
guns
world.
pumping around are blowing people's
The
minds.
sub 100 pounders.
Yeah. Any more questions? No? Well, we have a couple brands, like I said, around here. So afterwards, if anyone wants to come ask us questions, pick our brains, come check them out.
Thank
we're
you.
here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.